Marvin, welcome to the Take 5 podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Mate, thanks so much for doing it. It's not been too long coming, actually, has it? We were introduced by Neil at Calm, who's an absolute legend. You're an ambassador for them, doing great stuff, and they're a great charity. Yeah. They're a great charity anyway, and Neil calmly introduced me. So, mate, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
That's right.
So what's been going on? What have you been doing this week?
What day is it? Wednesday.
On Wednesday.
I lose track, to be honest, because the kids just drain me of energy. And
how many have you got?
2.
Yeah.
2.5 and 10 months.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah, I did 2 under 2, and it's real. 2 under 2 is a real thing. So
what's that shift look like? What do you have to do?
On a day-to-day basis during the week, it's just, it's not too difficult. It's just getting them up and ready for nursery in the morning and dropping them to nursery, because my wife gets the train to work and she has to be in early, so I just drop her to the train station on the way and then pick them up from nursery in the late afternoon, give them dinner whilst they're screaming and being mental and they're probably tired, and then give them a bath and get them ready for bed and into bed.
Wow, mate. So you're doing that every day? Monday
to Thursday, and then on a Friday, because my wife doesn't work on Fridays, fortunately for her and fortunately for me, she gets them up and I can have a line.
Yeah. And you're making it sound like you're a full-time stay-at-home dad, which you're not.
They go to nursery, so I'm not a full-time stay-at-home dad. I do see the majority of the load on a Monday, on a weekday.
Yeah.
Because I'm able to, because I work from home. I kind of pick and choose what I do.
Yeah.
Hours wise, and so it makes sense for me to do that, because my wife, her commute to work's an hour and a bit maybe, and so for her to be able to pick them up or drop them off would be quite a stretch when I can easily do it. So it just makes sense.
Yeah.
And then my kids, obviously.
Yeah. Another little reason why you got to do it. What about after you've dropped them off then, mate? What are you doing? You're working on 180? And
yeah. So, sometimes I go to the gym occasionally when I feel like it, which is, a good thing. Having retired from football recently, it's just been good to pick and choose when I feel, because often I feel tired.
Yeah.
And so I just think, I'm not going to go to the gym, or I'll go every couple of days maybe. And
you're just listening to your body?
Yeah, just listening to my body, see how I feel, and just do things just to make myself actually feel just healthy, really, essentially, when I go to the gym. But beyond that, I get home, get ready, and where we're at the moment as a company, there's so much that we're doing right at the ground level. So having a lot of meetings, having a lot of conversation with people, and just seeing where we are with different people and different companies, and trying to get our name out there, really. So being able to produce isn't something we've been able to do, and I've been able to do personally very much in terms of actually being out filming Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, because we haven't really got that many projects that we actually had greenlit at the moment. So having a lot of conversations about trying to get things over the line so we can get greenlit. One thing that we have managed to co-produce is a series with Yahoo, which I've been interviewing people for over the last couple of months, and that'll be out in early January, I think. So, which is going to be interesting for people who are interested in what the football industry is really like. And then other than that, on a day-to-day basis, it is working on ideas for new projects, and whether that is documentaries or series, or currently I'm writing a short film, and that's something that I want to film in at some point in 2020.
Amazing, man. Yeah, and I can hear exactly what you mean about like a startup business. It takes a lot of energy, meeting people back and forth, trying to get things moving, things off the ground. So yeah, really impressive, man. I'm looking forward to seeing the series in January as well. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how it's received.
Yeah. No, mate, it sounds amazing, but also controversial, especially from someone like myself who loves football mad, played it nearly my whole life. I'm looking forward to seeing what it's all about, and actually hearing today from yourself directly about it as well. So What's the transition been like over the last sort of year coming away from football? I know we were talking downstairs about you playing again a little bit just for fun, but what's it been like getting away from that professional scene and back to sort of normal life?
It's been quite easy, actually. Like mentally anyway. I didn't know. I mean, throughout football, you're always told, you need to think about retirement, and you're going to struggle. Players say they're going to, you're going to struggle to make the transition because you're going to miss the environment, miss the day-to-day of being in the group. And for me, it was never something that I really craved. It's never something that I really enjoyed or particularly loved when I was playing. The dressing room environment. I when I was younger, I didn't really like it, and I kind of grew to understand it and be a part of it better. But for me, it was never the be all and end all. I was there because I wanted to play football because I love playing football, and so I think for most players that come out of the game, that is the biggest thing. It's the day to day of being around people and the banter and being part of a big group. And
what was it about that you didn't like?
I don't know. It just felt going from school and being around friends and different types of people. The types of discussions you have and the how people converse and react to one another. I just felt that I wasn't particularly suited to it. From right back when I was about 14. I just thought that this is I felt like I was a bit out of place in that environment, which a lot of players would feel like. I think now the dressing room is probably different to what it was when I first started getting involved in football and professional environment, but it's still just a bit, it's the kind of things that get spoken about, the money, cars, women, that kind of things, and you just think it gets boring, it gets old, and it's very mundane, it's very meaningless, and over time you just think, like, why am I doing this? And at times I felt like I had to kind of dumb things down, how I was speaking or how I was acting or things that I'd want to speak about, and my views I'd kind of have to maybe not express them so much because you get looked at differently, and once you're outside the group, it does make playing difficult because these are people that you spend the majority of your time with. So yeah, that's not something that I found that I miss, because I feel like I've been able to be more so myself since I've retired and carry myself how I want to carry myself.
Yeah, that's amazing. I suppose it's difficult because you're so heavily impacted by the people that you're surrounded by and that you're spending your time with. Like, I can speak from example from teams that I played in growing up, and I was one of those younger lads who played in a higher age group, so I was with men between 20 and 30s when I was like 15, 16, and it's all well and good if you're playing well and you're welcomed in by some of the kind of main guys or characters in the dressing room, but if you're not, then it's a very different feeling and it's in a very different place, and it's often not like a nice place to go and play. And if your confidence is dented or you don't feel like you fit in, then it often affects how you play on the field as well. And yeah, I guess it's a really good point. I probably hadn't thought of it. You kind of have to mould the way that you're behaving and what you're talking about to fit in a little bit in that environment.
Yeah, and I think that for me, I was lucky that I got towards the end of my career and I had a few people who were very like-minded to me, and so I was able to go back to more so being myself and kind of having the discussion that I like to have with people on a day-to-day basis. And it kind of gave me a bit of a breath of fresh air really going forward. But then because I'd met those people and at that time I was in a situation where I was having these conversations with these people, and then the rest, in the same group, it's like it was just completely different. It just felt like, is this really where I want to be surrounding myself? Do I want to have to be like this all the time? Do I have to suppress my views even in public? With social media, being a football player, you can't have certain views. You can't speak about certain issues and without it being a thing. And it's good to be able to speak freely as well in a public forum, which is something that I think the majority of people are allowed to do. And for some reason, the industry of football suppresses that, whether that is from supporters or sponsors or other players, fans, not fans, like coaches, managers, etc., like people within the club. You're suppressing in a lot of ways, and coming out of that has been breath of fresh air for me.
Yeah, it's the worst thing as well. Like any sort of suppression of emotion or views or opinions, as you mentioned, leads to our own, I suppose, negativity, or can affect your health mentally and physically.
Yeah.
Okay, mate, really interesting to hear that. I think that I want to talk a little bit more about rituals. There's lots of rituals in football, whether it's pre-match rituals or even just things about routines, like you're asked to be in a certain place at a certain time. So has anything positively or negatively impacted you leaving that side of things? Like, do you feel like you need to have a ritual? I suppose as a dad, you've got your own new ritual now.
Kind of, but I mean, kids just every single day is different with them. So there is no, I mean, they wake up and they eat and they go to bed. That's guaranteed. But other than that, there are so many things that change, and you have to be able to be flexible. I think, obviously, I've learned from football about being disciplined and being single-minded, because to become a footballer anyway, you have to be disciplined and single-minded, and to stay a professional football player, you have to be disciplined and single-minded. So that's something that I've taken with me into my transition.
Do you have practices like morning routines or anything like that you try and stick to
No,
maintain?
I like to be flexible. I mean, I don't like to. I think that's one thing I've enjoyed about coming out of football, is the fact that I have the power to make decisions and kind of do as I feel, as I see. And I think because I'm quite an organised person anyway, it hasn't been too difficult for me to, and I'm very self-motivated, so it hasn't been too difficult for me to say, I need to do this, I'm going to do this today, I'm going to do that tomorrow, and kind of spread it out and look at my week and say, this is where I can have meetings, this is where I can do this is where I need to get this done by. That's just because that's just in my nature anyway.
Yeah.
And in football, you're very much told, this is when you do this is when you do that, this is when you do that, that's your structure. And I think where most struggle is, because coming out of football, is where they're told that and they don't have to think for themselves. Whereas I've always wanting to be able to have control over my own life in that sense, and in routine in what I'm doing, and having the freedom now to say, tomorrow I'm going to do this, or tomorrow I'm going to just take a day off because I feel like I need a day off, or I need to make these calls. Maybe I don't need to make these calls today, I can make them tomorrow, or I don't necessarily need to finish writing this piece or article today, I can do it tomorrow. I can spend extra time with the kids.
Yeah.
I can, pick them up early from nursery if I want, and if I've got the time, or I can just make the time, and I think being able to kind of juggle my life around and move things around, I'm able to do that because I'm self-motivated, and because I'm quite disciplined in how I organise myself. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, you sound a little bit like a born entrepreneur. You like the flexibility.
Well, I'm hoping that I can be a successful one, but that time will tell.
Yeah, now looking forward to seeing it, mate. Something I'm interested in is you sound like a little bit of a diamond in the rough. When we talk about generalised footballers and how they behave and act and what they want to talk about, it sounds a little bit like a diamond in the rough. I think from my own experience, was my kind of development around my own consciousness happened when I stopped playing. I finished playing at about 26, 27. And that was the point where I started to actually realise that materialism wasn't what it's all about, money and all these other things, and start to look at the things that really mattered in my life and look at purpose and meaning and all this other stuff. But it sounds as though you kind of had a little bit of that stuff figured out before, and that's probably one of the things that led to difficulties while you were playing. What do you think it was that led to you having these opinions and, I suppose, intellect that made you a little bit different?
I mean, I've always been like that since I was a kid. I always questioned absolutely everything, because I'm a very inquisitive person, and you know, if somebody tells me that, you know, you need to go here at this time, you know, I'd ask why, not to question authority or anything like that. I just want to know what is the meaning behind that. If someone says you need to drink 10 liters of water a day, as an example, I say, well, why is it? I'm not just going to just do it because I just, you know, I probably will do it anyway if you know, the person is an expert and they're recommending it, but I want to know why, because I want to understand. You know, I ask to understand, and I've always been like that since I could ever remember. I've always been so inquisitive about everything, and I think that is how I've been throughout my career. And because you have a lot of time to think, you know, being a professional football player, and most of the time, because I was away from home, I spent a lot of time on my own. So I spent a lot of time thinking and questioning, you know, everything, and whether it's, you know, purpose, life, yourself, beyond your career at present. And so there were so many times when I was in conflict almost with myself, thinking, why am I heading in that direction as a person when I know that I shouldn't be heading that direction? I should be heading in that direction. And it's, you know, why am I doing that, and how do I kind of steer myself back?
What else did you do in those moments when you had time to yourself outside of deep thinking? Were there like particular books you'd read or stuff you listened to? Or
not? I mean, I wasted a lot of time. I wasted so much time. I mean, most football players would tell you the same thing. You know, if you ask them, what did you do? And beyond watching TV, video games, and you say, what else did you do? So say, probably not much. Even if you ask them, this whole year, what have you done? Probably not that much. And for me, it's the same. Like early on, I just spent a lot of time playing video games, watching TV, and you got to, you know, my early to mid 20s, where I just became fascinated with beyond where I was, essentially, really, and just started thinking about leaders throughout history, and just wanting to kind of read a lot about picking people's brains, you know, whether it's Alexander the Great, whether it's Da Vinci, people who are like leaders in their fields, and people who are like great at whatever they've been great at, you know, and motivational people. And I read a lot of these things because I just thought, no, I want to be a great human being. I want to be great at what I do. And I think the best people to learn from are those who have already been great, or those who are great currently. And I mean, I didn't have to spend a lot of time reading, researching, or anything, but I had the time, so it made sense to just, even if it was an hour a day, or, you know, 2 hours a day, or whatever it is, as well as doing. I tried so many different activities just to get my mind just going, because I just felt like my mind was just being it was just like an exercise bike just sat in the corner with just collecting dust. That's how I felt my mind was at that point in time, because it just wasn't being used. You know, I was waking up, going to training, being told what time, do this, eat that, go home, put your feet up, and see you tomorrow. And that was it every day. And it's just like, my mind is just completely useless right now. It's not doing anything. And, you know, I was learning to play the piano, which I still love to play as well now. I like to experiment through cooking. I mean, I always loved cooking anyway, but doing a lot more with cooking.
What's your best dish?
I made I can't remember what fish it was now. It was the recipe was mahi.
Nice.
I can't remember what fish I used now, but it was a blackened mahi. It was so different, loads of different spices and seasoning.
Amazing.
With a pineapple salsa and coconut jasmine rice.
Decent, mate.
So yeah, it was. I mean, it's the best dish I've made by a long way.
It sounds unreal. So finding like creative things.
So
really
finding creative things. I obviously around that time I started writing as well. I started writing poetry. I was also learning to fly. So I got
plane
to
or helicopter.
Plane. So light aircraft. So I I was doing working towards my private pilot's license.
Where did you do that? Was it Cranfield or?
I did it when I was playing. I started it when I was at Charlton, so I did a couple of hours. It was a present initially, so I did a couple of hours. I did about 3 hours, but the airfield was about an hour drive for me.
Right.
And I just thought it's an hour drive there, an hour less, an hour back. That's so much out of my day.
Yeah.
Like after training especially, so I just thought it's not realistic to do that. And then when I went to Coventry, the airfield was right next to the training ground, like literally on the way home. It was about 5 minutes from the training ground, so I thought brilliant. And I ended up getting up to I did 25 hours. And when I was at Coventry for 6 months, so unfortunately when I left the club, I was at somewhere it was too difficult for me to try and get lessons again after that. But I did 25 hours and completed all 9 exams as well. So I was well on my way to getting my private license and flew solo, which was an amazing thing for me to work up to and for me to be able to say as well, and to have that accolade really as well.
Yeah, it's amazing because the message really is just try as many different things as you can to get your brain going and learn new skills and have that cognitive engagement, I suppose. Yeah. Whether people might not be able to afford the playing lessons, but
apart from that, I mean, that you can read. I did try to read a lot. I did a qualification as personal trainer, which I had.
Really?
Which I've completed and I've got. So I'm qualified personal trainer, even though it's not something I'm going to do, but it's something I did because I thought I want to. As a football player, you don't go to school and you don't get qualifications in that sense. You do your GCSEs and then beyond that, that's pretty much it. So I thought, I want to get a qualification of some sort. So, and it was something that I thought that it's, if things don't work out, that's a potential avenue to go down because I'm obviously got a massive interest in sport and I understand the fitness industry and fitness and health and nutrition. So I did that and a qualification in nutrition as well as a nutrition consultant.
Amazing. Right, so many things. Chef, nutritionist, PT, pilot, pianist. Something I wanted to ask, this is in its essence is a peak performance podcast. So we speak with the best athletes, entrepreneurs, meditation experts, lifestyle experts, whatever it might be. Obviously you were at the top of football, played in the Premiership, scored many goals, played internationally, played in the Olympics as well, which I'd like to talk a little bit more about as well. They say that only about even less than 1% of footballers actually make it as a professional. So interested to know from your experience of obviously being there, what it takes to be a peak performance footballer and make it to the top.
I think the things I alluded to earlier, so just being single-minded. I was told many, many, many times from the age of 6 to up until I became a professional that I would never become a professional.
Really?
Many times. And I always said to every single person that I ever met, I'm going to be a professional football player. It doesn't really matter what you think or you say, but this is going to happen. And I dedicated all my time to practicing to improve my craft so that I could put myself in a very good position to become a professional football player. As a 10-year-old even, I'd be in my garden kicking the ball against the wall, practicing on my left foot, practicing on my right foot, practicing on my touch, my volleys, whatever it may be, whilst people were, running around, or even when it got to high school, the same thing. So whilst my peers were going to parties or hanging around at the bus stop or bus station or wherever they were doing, if I wasn't at football training, I'd be at home practicing. And when I was watching it, if I'd go home and watch a game, I'd be studying the game. I wouldn't just watch it for enjoyment because I'd watch to understand what the players in my position were doing.
Yeah.
I think that's what it takes. You can't, you don't get into something being half-hearted. It just doesn't work. You have to push and push and push and just believe, really. And when the time comes and the opportunity comes, be ready. When my first opportunity came, when I got scouted for Chelsea, and I wasn't good enough. They told me I wasn't good enough, and went back to the drawing board and practiced and worked. And I got another opportunity when I scouted for Fulham the following year, and I was signed after a week because I was ready, but B, I was so hungry, and I wasn't there, and I was going to make sure that the same thing didn't happen that happened at Chelsea.
Amazing, man. So I heard Kobe Bryant talk about it, that like if you want to be a professional athlete, like you were just saying there, it's just about hours. And he says that kids that play in teams and train twice a week, it's not enough. You train twice a week and compete once at the weekend, it's not enough. If he was telling anyone, it would just be just work at your craft, which is exactly what you said. So do you believe that whether it's from an athlete's perspective or in business or whatever it might be that someone's trying to achieve, that as long as they put their mind to it and believe they can do it, that anything's achievable?
Yeah, I mean, literally anything is possible for anybody, because if you practice something, I mean, you're going to get people who have just a complete natural gift for something, but the large, overwhelming majority of people don't have that just natural, outstanding gift. People have a gift for certain things, and people are talented at certain things, as opposed to just being able to be that good they can just walk into industry and that's fine. The majority of people don't, and the majority of people have to work hard at it. I was a professional football player for 10 years, and there would have been players throughout the whole, I became professional at 18, and from when I was 6, when I started playing, in those 12 years, I would have come across loads of players who were better than me, loads of players who were just as good as me, and who would never have got to becoming a professional football player. It's not because of talent, it's because A, they didn't want to do it, B, they didn't put in the hours, C, maybe they didn't think they were going to do it. Whereas all those things were the complete opposite for me. I put in the hours, I wanted it, and I knew I was going to do it.
Who gave you that mindset? Where did that come from?
So my mum always said to me that you can do anything you want if you work hard. But I mean, she didn't know anything about football, and so obviously when I told her I wanted to be a professional football player when I was 6, she just said, football's not a real job. But no, it's something that I said from as far as I know that was what I wanted to do, and that was what was going to happen. And even becoming a professional doesn't mean you're going to stay a professional. It's the first step on the ladder. Yeah. And from there, to maintain a career is harder than getting one. And so, the fact that I was able to do so, have a very long career, successful career, is amazing.
Yeah, hats off to you, mate. A decade playing professionally is unbelievable. Massive congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, speaking about parents, like they're so amazing because they have to take you to training every evening and they have to sacrifice so much. And my mum used to drive me all over the place for football. And again, she didn't really know much about football at all, but just gave up like every evening to drive around. You spoke about the moment when you did become a professional. When I was younger, I was at Northampton between the ages of 14 and 16, and I didn't get a contract. And again, all that sacrifice, all the time that you give up and the energy that you put into it, we were essentially, after 2 years, lined up outside a hall to go in and speak to the coach. And you go in with your mum or your dad, so I was there with my mum, and then they just say yes or no, and then you're just left to your own devices after that. And I didn't get a contract. Only one person in our age group did. So that was quite a difficult thing for me to take, and I quit for a year after that. I know you speak really openly and really well and eloquently about the darker side in football. But before we touch on that bit, interested to know how it felt for you when you did finally get your pro contract.
I mean, it was a relief, really, in the fact that it'd been such a long road. And I've talked about at Chelsea when I didn't get in. At Fulham, obviously, I got signed, but at 16, I was released. I didn't get offered a scholarship, and so I had to go to exit trials and try to prove myself again. Where all these people telling me that you're not going to become a professional football player. Got signed by Watford, and then beyond that, I found it very difficult in my first year as a scholar. So I didn't think I was going to even turn it around there, but fortunately I did. And then going into the meeting, finding out that I was getting a professional contract, which, by that point in my age group, I think there were 6 players or 7 players in my age group, and 3 had already been given professional contracts earlier in the season, or the season before even. And so there was 3 of us left. I was the last person to go in for the meeting on that day, so the 3 of us having a meeting on that day. And the 2 going before me both didn't get offered contracts. And so I'm the last person thinking, well, it's probably going to be the same here for me. And walking in and then being told, yes, I'm going to get you've got a professional contract. It's great feeling. But then you realise that doesn't even mean anything. It just means that you're still here for now. That's it for now. Professional contract doesn't mean anything really. It just gives you a bit more time doing the same thing you're doing.
Yeah.
And you have to do it better because now you're a professional.
Yeah. So once you get in the door, you've managed to get in the room, brilliant. But then you've got to prove yourself, and especially in football, it's week after week after week. Yeah, fascinating. And what about the first time you ran over the white line to play professionally?
It didn't really feel that special, to be honest.
Really?
Which is weird because, I came on, we played Sheffield United away and didn't think I was going to be on the bench. I was in the squad. I'd been in the squad a few times and didn't think I was going to be on the bench. So, saw my name on the team sheet and was quite surprised, obviously happy, but I obviously saw the rest of the squad and, there were 2 experienced strikers on the bench and I thought, well, there's 3 strikers on the bench. I've never played any games. So obviously I'm not going to come on. So I didn't really even get nervous or think about it really too much. Yeah. And we were 2-0 down after about, I don't know how long it was, maybe 60 minutes or something. And man just told me to get warm, I'm coming on. And I just thought, well, I was a bit surprised. But going on, it just felt quite flat really. The atmosphere was a bit flat because I think the game, I think it made me late in 60 minutes because the game felt like it kind of died out.
Yeah.
And there wasn't really any real tempo to it. So it just, when I came on, it just felt like another game, really.
It's hard to come off the bench at the best of times, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who was it who brought you on? Who put faith in you?
Malky Mackay.
Okay, right. And did you have a good relationship with him?
Ish, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember him saying, because he was the reserve manager when I was in the youth team, and I remember him saying, after I made my reserve debut, he said, you perform like that, you're never going to play for this club in the first team.
No way.
Which was funny because he ended up giving me my debut.
Yeah. Oh, mate, it's so interesting to hear. I love hearing about it. What about your first goal?
My first goal was at Leeds United in the Carling Cup, it was called at the time, the League Cup. So
in Ellen Road?
At Ellen Road, yeah. Again, didn't think I was going to be on the bench because after that game, Sheffield United, we had, I think, 3 more games and I wasn't on the bench for any of them. So when I was in the squad still, so the squad sheet comes up and my name's on the bench, and I thought, well, probably not going to get on anyway because other players probably get on before me. And came on, I think we were 1-0 down, and I think with about 10 minutes to go, I scored an equaliser. So obviously I was just like completely over the moon, just buzzing, and something that I'm never going to forget because it was my first of many at that point, and that's, you think, going all the way back to when you're a kid, that's the moment that you're working towards. Especially in my position, is to get your first goal.
So good.
It was amazing.
And you scored loads of good goals as well. You actually posted, one a couple of days ago, I think it was, which was one of your England under 21 games. Back to goal, like 30 yards out, touch with the left foot, and then absolutely shotgun rifled it into the top corner. Was that your best goal, do you reckon?
Yeah, that's probably the best goal I've scored, yeah.
Yeah. How many did you get, professional?
I actually don't know, to be honest.
No.
I've not, the last time I looked on was probably on Wikipedia, and that was probably about a year ago.
Yeah.
So I actually don't know, to be honest.
What were your standout moments for you? Obviously playing for England.
Playing for England, playing
GB.
in the Olympics, playing in the Premier League, and scoring some of the goals that I scored. Really, it's just no. I think looking back on my career, I probably enjoyed it more so than during it. And there are some great moments, for me, playing at the Emirates, for example, being an Arsenal fan, playing at the Emirates in the Premier League.
Me too.
Is a highlight.
What game was that?
When I was at Burnley.
Okay.
We played them. It was like November-ish time.
Burnley at bogey team for us as well.
Lost 3-0.
Really?
Yeah. I think Sanchez scored 2.
Oh, was it the Sanchez days?
Yeah. Scoring at White Hart Lane against Tottenham for Burnley in the FA Cup was another highlight.
Amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, and obviously playing in the Euros for England as well, which was, was amazing.
Yeah.
So there's some great moments that I can always remember and hold on to.
Yeah, unbelievable, mate. So good. The Team GB stuff, obviously, there was a load of hype around that, wasn't there? Whether or not Pierce was going to bring in Beckham or who was going to be involved. But you got to play with like Giggs and Ramsey, again, if you're an Arsenal fan.
Yeah.
Who else? Were they the 2 standout players?
Craig Bellamy.
Yeah.
It's probably, and Micah Richards was an overage player as well, so they're probably the biggest names. I mean, at the time, Ramsey wasn't playing really for Arsenal anyway, because he'd only recently come back from his injury. So, he wasn't the player that he's probably even looked at or thought of today.
Yeah. Showed glimpses of it, didn't he, before
he was, training with him, he was outstanding.
Was he?
Yeah.
Who's the best player you played with?
I mean, Daniel Sturridge was in the squad as well.
Oh, was he?
I mean, in terms of ability, either him or Wilfried Zaha.
Really? No way, Zaha. Where did you play with him?
England, under 21s.
Oh, yeah. And then he went to Ivory Coast.
He played for the senior team, I think, once in a friendly, and then played for Ivory Coast.
Yeah.
But just in terms of pure ability, either of those two are just, just outrageous, really.
Yeah.
And
you think we should have signed Zaha at Arsenal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm fortunate enough to in our under 21s team we had very talented squad and quite a few players who've gone on to have great careers and played lots of games for the senior team, like Raheem Sterling and Alex Chamberlain, Jordan Henderson.
Yeah.
So we're talking about Champions League winners as well here. So to have played with them and see the likes of Ryan Giggs as well, Craig Bellamy and Daniel Sturridge, just it's amazing to think, really, to look back at.
Talking about mindset in sport, did it ever impact you when you were playing on like particularly good pitches versus like, because Turf Moor, I've been there and sat in the away end, like it's not at the Emirates. Did you have to switch your mind on more in games like that, or was it the other way around? You had to switch your mind on more in like really
it'd just be
nice
different. You'd have to mentally prepare yourself in different ways for different games. I mean, for me as well, because I played at higher levels and lower levels at different times. My peak was probably 21 till, in terms of where my career was at, 21 to about 23, 24. So the middle chunk of my career. And beforehand, my mindset was different because I was a younger player who wasn't really thought of so much and thought of so highly. And I think it's when I got to about 19, 20 when I was playing regularly, scoring quite a lot. Whereas things changed for me. My mindset had to be different for games because I was a player that people started to know about and were, my team was expecting of me, as well as the opposition were wanting to stop me as opposed to, other players, for example. And so your mindset has to be different at that stage. And it was the same coming, out of playing in the Premier League for England in the Olympics, going to play at Colchester, for example. People looking at me the same way as in the sense that they're expecting me to be the one to perform, me to be the one to win the team the games. And whether that's home or away, you have to have the mindset that you're just ready to go. And I think when you're playing for England, it's very different because you're expected to win every game. In the 21s we expected to win every game, which we won the large majority of. In the European Championships we struggled because we played Italy our first game, which we expected to dominate because we'd won and dominated basically every game we had played for 2 years up until that point. and we lost, and we were dominated, and our mindset just completely cracked because we didn't know how to deal with it because it never happened to us.
Interesting.
And I think that's where the best players and the best teams are just so fluid at adapting to whatever situation is facing them. Whether it's an away game in a cold place, in a tough ground where the fans are going to be on you and your opposition's going to be really at you, and just knowing that you have the mentality to just outwork them and outbattle them. And it doesn't just have to be pretty football. You don't have to just play good football. You have to just beat them in a fight and you win the game. Or some places you just know that you just need to be physically willing to just run a lot, because some games are just literally just running a lot, and other games are just about being mentally very patient and sticking to what you're good at, and being technically and tactically very switched on. So more so the games when I'd say playing for England, for example, we play against Azerbaijan away, and that we're playing on AstroTurf, and it's going to be sticky. They want the ball. They want the game to be played slow. They're going to sit in. They're going to defend deep and try and hit us on the counter-attack. We have to be very patient. We have to try to be very switched on in technically, tactically, so that we don't give the ball away cheaply. We don't waste any opportunities. And we have to be patient, because it might take 40 minutes. It might take 60 minutes. It might take 80 minutes to break through to score. But we have to win the game at some stage because we're expected to win the game. So I think I was very fortunate in that I experienced very different sides to football in terms of mentality, and I think that helps me in life as well.
Yeah, it's so fascinating, man. And it's such a good message around patience, because I think that we all need to be more patient, especially with how we operate now with like social media and all this instant gratification. Need to be patient, and then in the moment when we do have that opportunity, like you said, even with getting the contract at the beginning, or the trial, making the most of that opportunity. I suppose that's a lesson on presence as well, and just being in the moment. And I think it's definitely adding up and starting to make sense now that when you were having those quiet periods in between training or midweek before you're setting up for a game, while you're going out your mind a little bit, bored, or feeling like you said your mind's just being wasted, just sitting there getting would you say getting dusty on the side or something, because you're just not engaging your brain. Whereas when you're not engaging your brain, when you're in a game, you're so on point with it, or when you're so dialed into what's happening in the moment. It's such a massive contrast. So to talk a little bit more about, you mentioned the darker side of football, and often some of those times you spoke very openly about how they led to darker periods in your mental health and difficult times in your mental health. Do you want to talk a little bit about the stuff you've spoken about in the past and kind of what happened, what led to it in the first place, and just a little bit more about that story?
For me, what led to it is the fact, I very much pointed to the fact that I, for my entire life, had football as a hobby and was emotionally invested in that, as that was my emotional release. So when I wanted to be happy, I'd go and play football. And it became my job, and at the same time, it was my hobby still. And so, a working environment is very different to having a hobby. You go to a hobby purely for enjoyment, whereas working environment, you're going to have a very different range of emotions. You're going to have ups, you're going to have downs, you're going to have people telling you and making you do things you don't want to do, and you have to do it because this is your work, this is your job. So I think what I found difficult was separating the fact that it was my hobby from the fact that it was my job, and understanding that you need to have a different mindset when something is your job. And for a long time I didn't. I was so emotionally invested in what I was doing that my emotions were just so up and down because of the way I was playing, or different things that was happening, and I didn't have a release because that was my release. And so I was just stuck in a spiral and just kind of just going down and down and down with every little thing that happened, whether it was a pass, a bad pass, or whatever. My emotion would just be spiking just constantly throughout the day, week, month, whatever it was. And it was only through my search for other hobbies, as I mentioned earlier, that I realized that I needed to try and replace my hobby to actually have a release somewhere else and change my mindset towards football and towards my job, because that's what it was my job.
Yeah.
And I needed to be better at having a work mentality whenever I stepped in, and whether that is putting on, a face, which people have to do on a day-to-day basis, and kind of go through what you need to go through to then be able to, and leave work at the door. Because I think that's the biggest thing for me, is that I always took work home with me, because work was my hobby, my life. And so, I'd go home and be down all the time. And, if that goes into the next day, you think after about 4 days you're going to be completely drained, which I was. But then it just continued for months and months and years, and I just didn't know where I was going or where I was at, really. I just felt very lost.
Yeah. There's that philosophy of Stoicism, we spoke about it a lot on this podcast, which is ultimately better understanding your emotions and keeping them in check better, I suppose, when things blow up. And naturally we would lean into things like anger or disappointment or frustration, and we act on those things. It's more about managing those impulses and recognising them before they crop up. Is that something that you started to try and do then? Like leaving it at the door is essentially just saying, right, letting it go for your own mental health as well.
I think that's something that I learnt better towards the latter stages of my career. So I learnt to treat it more like a job and not to be so emotionally invested in everything. I'd be happy when we won or disappointed when we lost, but that disappointment or anger would stop as soon as I got in my car to go home. Really? Because I have life.
Yeah.
I have to live my life beyond work, and it, in the past where I was letting what happened on a Saturday affect the rest of my week until I played another game, I got to a stage where I was able to leave a game, regardless, win, lose or draw. I can go and spend time with my girlfriend, who's now my wife, or my friends, my family, and then see my kids when they were born, and just enjoy that and not have to think about anything else. And that was very freeing, really, for me.
Yeah, I bet it sounds it. I could do a little bit of that. There's that analogy where people say that to get to the other side of the pool, you need to let go of the side that you're at already.
Yeah.
And that allows you to progress and get to where you go.
Great saying.
Yeah. Something that I suffered with in football particularly, but also I think in life in general, whether that's in business or very often in creative things as well, is people being subjective. Everyone's got their own opinion, and that could be quite difficult, because whether it's it could be a poem that you've written and someone says that's shit, or whether it's a coach who says you're not ever going to play in the first team. Like, it's hard to take on somebody else's beliefs or opinions of you when you have your own about yourself. How did you start to manage that and be okay with that, whether it was around selection or anything else that you've done?
Again, that was something that only really happened for me in my latter stage of my career in terms of confidence. I think having an unwavering self-confidence is so important for anybody in any walk of life. And when I was a lot younger, even at the height of my career, I never really believed in myself, and I never really believed that I deserved to be where I was. And it was only towards the latter stage of my career when I thought, you know what, I'm a very good football player. I'm here because I'm a very good football player. And if I don't get picked, then I don't get picked. But I'm going to work hard. I'm going to do what I do. I'm going to show people what I can do. And also, this is who I am. Besides from being on the pitch, off the pitch, as I said, I got to a stage where I could more so be myself and talk about the things I want to speak about myself, carry myself how I want to, and question the things I'd want to. Maybe that is something that comes with age and sometimes status, because I was allowed to be or do or act a certain way because I'd kind of earned the respect to be able to do so in my career. Mm-hmm. But I built up an unwavering self-confidence, really, because it got to a stage where I thought, well, you're either going to believe in me or you're not. I can't be that invested in what somebody else thinks about me, because when I was younger, I said if I believed in everything everyone said, I wouldn't have become a professional football player, because everyone said I wasn't going to. But I always had that single-mindedness, like, you know, I'm going to get there. It doesn't matter how. I don't even know how, but I'm going to get there. And I have kind of regained that as I've gotten older, to think, you know, the things I do, I know what I'm good at, I know what I can improve at. But, you know, I'll listen to people's opinions and take on board feedback. But in the end of the day, I believe in myself. And coming from where I had been, that is massive for me. You know, to have that, you know, a strong and genuine belief in myself, in where I'm heading and where I'm at.
Amazing, mate. Yeah. I think that as long as your self-esteem or self-belief outweighs whatever insecurities that you've got, then, you know, you're in a really good position to be able to achieve whatever you want to do. I suppose even more so for you when you've got 30,000 people screaming or cheering for you or against you. It's even more important and saves you heartache.
Yeah, I think that is, for me, I think that's something that came probably from suffering from depression, is the fact that I got to know myself, you know, on a very deep level, and kind of, it allowed me to strip away the layers of insecurities and kind of, you know, protect myself from this or that or whatever. And sometimes, you know, in football anyway, you know, a lot of players have these personas just built up around them, and it's not who they are. It doesn't allow themselves to really portray who they are.
I often wonder that with like people like Zlatan Ibrahimovic. I love him and I think he's an amazing character, but it's clearly a persona what he's doing, and the way that people react to it, it's only going to encourage him more to be that person, not his true self.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think for me anyway, I know that my vulnerabilities that I've spoken about very openly, and I've owned them. You know, this is who I am, this is my journey, this is what I've been through, and this is where I'm going. That has allowed me to be a lot stronger, because I don't have to worry about hiding that or you know, kind of living up to any. I don't have to live up to anything. You know, I am who I am, and I'm very comfortable in my own skin, and that is because of, you know, the low points that I had in my life.
Yeah, they're so beneficial. You can look back and reflect on those. I say exactly the same thing when I have my difficult times as well. Like, I learned so much from it. It's forced me to actually look under the skin and figure out what it's all triggered from in the first place. There was a particularly difficult week that you've spoken about very openly again, where you played Millwall away, and then you played for England against Belgrade, and there was like fans that were being racist to yourself, Justin Rose, and some of the other lads in the squad. Was that something that led to the depression, or had you already experienced mental health before that?
I'd already experienced mental health before that, so I mean, that wasn't something that triggered anything. And, you know, fortunately for me, that's not something that, I mean, it affects me in a very different way. It doesn't affect my emotional well-being, but it does. You know, it's just tough to hear, to see, to feel really that people see you as less than human because of the colour of your skin, and it makes me feel different at different times. Sometimes I can just kind of laugh it off in the sense that, you know, these people are idiots, or sometimes it angers me. Sometimes I feel like sorry for people because they just don't understand beyond their very ignorant views, and just you know, I mean, it's sad. It's sad that people have these opinions and these views, and they go out into the world and talk about how they hate someone because they're different. And yeah, we're all different. Every single human being in the world is different. So it's sad, really.
So sad, man. I can't believe it's still like it is, like even globally.
Yeah.
You look at people like Colin Kaepernick, who's been kicked out of the NFL because of his beliefs and standing up for it. Like, what right do even the NFL, like, they're almost supporting this? It's ridiculous, and it's still happening in football now. Like, Sterling's been getting all sorts of abuse every weekend, even in England, in Manchester. It's mad to think that it's still going on and not more is being done about it. So I just think it's fantastic that you're standing up for it and speaking about it so well as well.
Well, I mean, it's important. It's important that we don't skirt around the issue. We face it head on, and I guess it needs to be addressed directly in the sense that you can't talk about. I think one of the things I heard the other day when I was watching the Manchester derby is someone talked about an incident. It's like, well, it's racism. Don't kind of make it feel more comfortable, make it lesser than what it is. It needs to be uncomfortable. You need to feel uncomfortable when you're discussing racism, because how do you think the person being racially abused feels? They feel very uncomfortable. And so you should feel uncomfortable talking about it, because it's not a nice thing, and so I think it's important, to tackle it head on, definitely.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that was the thing that, a couple of weeks ago with Balotelli as well.
Yeah.
When he tried to leave the pitch and all his teammates were like trying to make him carry on playing. It's just like, have a bit of respect for what he's obviously going through emotionally. But yeah, mate, I think just fair play for what you're doing, and if there's anything that I could do to help along that subject as well, then I'd love to. You spoke also about when it got to its absolute worst, and I think you spoke about taking some tablets and considering suicide. Would you talk a little bit about that, but then kind of follow up with any advice you'd want to give to people who might be considering the same thing or going through a particularly tough time as well?
Well, I attempted suicide. I took a load of tablets before going to bed, went to sleep and didn't expect to wake up. I did wake up. I mean, thankfully. At the time, I didn't really think too much about it because I was just so numb and so ready to move on, really. And I think looking back, obviously, the first thing I think is that it was quite selfish of me to really just, without even saying goodbye to anyone, really, is the first thing that I think of when I look back at that time. But I think for anybody going through that period, I mean, you need to speak to the people around you, because the people around you, the people you love, they know you better than anyone, and they'll know that something is up, but they won't know what. And I think just having that conversation with somebody is like reaching your arm up when you're on the edge of a cliff. Or when you're drowning, just putting your arm up. Really, that's a visual metaphor for what I think. Just having a conversation with it, because that person will reach out back to you, and slowly but surely they might help to start pull you out of the water. Then you speak to someone else and they're helping, and before you know it, you've got a whole group of people around you, and you're standing outside the pool, with a towel wrapped around you and a hot chocolate and in a better place. And you'd be looking at that pool thinking, why did I ever jump in?
Yeah, mate, that's amazing. Have you seen the film It's a Wonderful Life?
No.
Oh, mate, you'll love it.
Yeah.
It's a Christmas film, actually. It's like a really old Christmas film. It's probably one of my favourite. It's probably my favourite Christmas film, but it's one of my favourite films in general. I think it's about a guy who's ultimately had all these fantastic dreams, who's wanted to travel the world and achieve all this amazing stuff, which, especially back in the day when it was made, was quite a unique thing. Most people just lived in their little towns they were born in and stayed there their whole life. It ultimately takes over the family business, and it goes through his life of all the hardships that he came across and all this sort of stuff. And he gets to the stage where he decides it's all too much. He's in debt, and the best thing for him to do is to commit suicide, let his wife and his kids take the insurance payout for his life. And then it's obviously it's make-believe, but an angel comes down and shows him what everybody else's life who he has impacted in a positive way would have been if he wasn't there. And then he obviously at the end he decides that it's not the right thing to do, and that he's got an amazing life and a wonderful life, as the title suggests. Mate, you need to watch it. You'd absolutely love it.
Yeah, I will do.
So just to jump into where you are today, mate, I know we spoke a little bit at the beginning about what you're doing with the production company and the fantastic series that you're bringing out, and if you want to touch on a little bit more about what's to come and how much of a fantastic 2020 I'm sure you're going to have.
Well, hopefully if we get some things greenlit. So producing, we've got about 3 or 4 projects that we're trying to get greenlit at the moment that we're having conversation with people with. See the co-production with Yahoo that comes out in January. I'm doing a lot of public speaking at the moment. I've got a few bookings for the new year, which is good.
What are you speaking about? Is it
Mental health.
Mental health.
My story essentially, being in elite sports, mental health, the trials and tribulations of trying to be successful.
Yeah.
Writing, I wrote an article for The Guardian and hoping to follow up on that with some other opportunities in writing, potentially my own book.
Amazing.
Hopefully.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And still writing short films and wanting to make some of those into actual short films as opposed to just a script.
Do you know who the secret footballer is?
No, I don't. I mean, I don't know, but everyone kind of knows.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks it's Dave Kitson, don't they?
Oh, Dave Kitson, yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know him, so.
You should find out and do a collab because that'd be brilliant. You both seem like you got similar opinions of the game, so. And I'm sure he does stuff with The Guardian as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think he does, yeah.
Yeah.
He has an article for.
It'd be brilliant to see you writing a book as well.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be good if somebody finds it interesting.
No, I can assure you that they will, mate. Absolutely. Not to put you on the spot, but have you got any poems at the front of your mind that you'd be happy to share? Or just a little piece of one?
I can get my phone up.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's called Forbidden Fruit.
Okay.
It's about the modern digital age, I would say. The digital age. Shall I read the whole thing, yeah?
Yeah.
Right. We see a forbidden fruit that has a bite, and we can't resist to indulge in spite of all the misery that it ignites. See, we're all guilty, you and I, of getting caught up in a web of lies. Then we comment like we know it all. Why? She's goals that girl, he's goals that guy. What did she eat? What did he buy? What on earth is he wearing? She thinks she's fly. She's fat as a van, he's skinny as a fry. Look at her nose, look at his eyes. Oh, you're being bullied. Look at this baby cry. But did you know they want to die? A view of our profile just shows one side, which gives the other the chance to run and hide from having to surf the wave while we flee the tide. Socially connected, yet socially inept. It can't be an issue we ignore or neglect. Or is it something that we must accept? How do we find the right balance? I mean, they've managed to link the whole planet, so it can't be all bad, can it? Have we been doomed to this reality because we want to share all we can see with those that look up to you and me? I can't tell you if it's good or bad, but more care and caution must be had when we jump hand first into the net and become absorbed in its fads.
Amazing, man.
Thanks.
So good, man. I love it. That's awesome. When did you start doing that?
When did I start?
Generally writing
poems? 2012, I think.
Yeah. Therapeutic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just my thoughts, really, essentially.
It's amazing. Yeah, got the message, mate. It's brilliant. Do you do any like journaling or anything like that as well?
No, actually.
Just all through that.
I mean, I kind of. I say no because I don't mean to, but that's what poems. But poems essentially start out as of just things that happen or my thoughts, and I just want to get them down and write them down.
Yeah.
And then I get back to it and try to kind of expand on it and expand on the emotions and try to create a piece.
Oh, amazing, man. Thanks for sharing that. That was awesome. So we do the same 3 questions at the end of every episode. This is just short, quick fire questions. So the first of these 3 is there anything you've discovered or come across recently that you're particularly excited about that listeners should look into themselves?
It's a very good question. It's hard to say because it's for me, it's just the things that I've come across is my own self-confidence and my own belief in myself, really. That's the biggest thing. And the only way I could share that is by saying to go outside your comfort zones. It's something that I've done a lot recently. And it's made me a lot more confident because I've been able to thrive outside of the places that I initially thought I was comfortable in.
Yeah, that's so good. I find it interesting as well. Like I've started doing it more where if even something small, like feeling like I need a coffee and then resisting that urge, saying, no, I don't. That's just like my mind telling me that I need something when actually I'm fine. Yeah, that's amazing. Second one is, if you had to recommend one practice or a habit or a routine for people to do daily that's going to help their performance, what would that be?
Reading.
Nice.
Definitely. I mean, all the knowledge in the world is in books. I don't read anywhere near as much as I'd like to, but I have a lot of books.
Yeah.
And there is so much information, there's so much you can gain from somebody else's story.
So good. Any that stand out for you?
I mean, for me, the best thing I read was the Chimp Paradox.
Yeah.
In terms of impact on my life, because it helped me really to understand myself. And I think because of the time I read it and the place I was at where I read it, it really helped me to understand what was kind of going on in my own life, inside my own mind, and why I'd react certain ways to certain things, or other people would be acting or reacting to different things in different ways. And it gave me a lot more understanding and patience of a lot of different things.
Yeah, amazing. That Prof. Peters, isn't it? Professor Peters.
Yeah.
Awesome. And the last one of these three is, take yourself back to the moment where you woke up after you'd taken those pills. You didn't think you were going to wake up. Imagine two Marvins woke up. One of them went on to have all the success in sport that you have done and ultimately become the successful person that you are, sat in front of me today. And the other one didn't go on to do all those things. The mindset was shifty, it changed. You didn't turn out to do all the things you've done. What do you think the key trait is between those two people?
Determination, probably. Just determination to succeed. Just grit and determination.
Yeah.
In terms of wanting to just carry on and always progress. That's, I think for me, that is the number one thing.
Awesome, man. Mate, I think you're an absolute legend. It's been a pleasure hearing your story, man. It really has. And I can't wait to see the series that's coming out. We'll put all links to that and stuff in on socials. And it's been a pleasure, mate. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, Marvin.